I stood there frozen in the hotel lobby, watching my own children walk away, laughing toward the elevator, without turning back even once. Monica, my daughter-in-law, had said something about finally getting rid of the burden, and everyone had laughed. They didn't know I had heard every word. They didn't know I had paid every cent of that reservation with money I saved for 8 months, selling my pies on Sundays at the farmer's market, and saving coin by coin in a cookie tin I hid behind the beans. They also didn't know what I was about to do. But let's go back to the beginning because it all started 3 weeks earlier, on a Tuesday afternoon, when the warm sun was streaming through my kitchen window. I was preparing my afternoon coffee, as I had done every day since becoming a widow 4 years ago, when my phone rang. It was Robert, my eldest son, with that sweet voice he used when he needed something. "Mom, I have a wonderful idea," he said, and I felt that tickle in my chest I always got when my children included me in their plans. "What do you think about taking a family trip for New Year's? All of us together like old times?" His voice sounded so excited I could almost see his smile through the phone. "I found a beautiful hotel on the coast. Pools, restaurants, activities. For the kids. It would be perfect, Mom." I set the coffee pot on the table, feeling my eyes fill with tears of joy. It had been so long since I'd felt included, since they'd invited me to anything more than family dinners where I sat quietly while they talked about their jobs, their travels, their plans. I was always the one who served, who cleared the plates, who stayed in the kitchen while the others went to the living room. "That sounds wonderful, son," I replied, trying to keep my voice from breaking. "When would it be?" "The first week of January. 7 days, Mom. Imagine all of us. Me, Monica, David and Anna, the grandkids, and you, of course, like one big united family." He paused and added, "There's just one small detail, Mom. The hotel requires one person to make the reservation. Could you take care of it? We'll transfer you the money later." Of course, it was always like that. I put my name down. I gave the guarantee. I handled the paperwork while they enjoyed. But this time, I didn't mind. It was an opportunity to do something special for my family, to show them how much I loved them. "Of course, son. Count on me." That same afternoon, I called the hotel. The receptionist had a kind, professional voice. "Palms Resort. How may I help you?" "I'd like to make a reservation for 12 people," I said, feeling my heart race. I had never organized something so big. "Perfect, ma'am. For which dates?" "January the 2nd through 9th. I heard her typing on her computer. "Very well. That would be 5 family suites, full board, access to all activities. The total would be $4,200. My breath caught. $4,200. My pension was $800 a month. I had saved $800 selling pies for 8 months. I didn't have enough. "Ma'am, are you there?" Yes. "Sorry, can I confirm the reservation and pay later?" "We need a 50% deposit to confirm, ma'am. $2,100. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat in my rocking chair, calculating and recalculating. I had $1,800 in cash, some savings I'd kept for emergencies, and my wedding ring. The ring my husband had given me 42 years ago, with a small diamond that sparkled in the light. The next day, I went to the jewelry store downtown. Mr. Johnson, the owner, was an elderly man who knew the whole family. "Eleanor, how are you?" "Fine, Johnson. I came to ask how much you'd give me for this ring." He examined it with his magnifying glass, turning it between his wrinkled fingers. "It's a nice piece, Eleanor. I can give you $800. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. $800 for 42 years of marriage. But I thought about Robert's smile, about the possibility of having my whole family together. Happy. Deal! With the money from the ring and my savings, I called the hotel that same afternoon and paid the deposit. The reservation was confirmed, in my name, with my credit card as guarantee. 5 family suites, 12 people, 7 days of full board. During the following weeks, every time I spoke with Robert or David, they asked about the trip details, but never mentioned the money. "We'll talk about that later," they'd say. "The important thing is that we're all together." I kept selling pies on Sundays, doing sewing work for the neighbors, saving every penny I could to complete the final payment. My house became colder because I lowered the heat, ate less meat, walked instead of taking the bus, all for that family trip that would be perfect. 3 days before the trip, Robert called me excited. "Mom, you can't imagine how excited we are about these days. The kids are super excited. Monica has everything packed. How are the hotel preparations going?" "Everything's ready, son. Just the final payment left." "Ah, yes, of course. Well, we'll see about that there. The important thing is to have fun." The night before the trip, I finished paying the complete reservation with my credit card. $4200. My entire wedding ring, all my savings, plus the debt left on the card. But it was worth it. I was going to have 7 perfect days with my family. I had no idea what I was about to discover. The morning of the trip, I woke up before dawn. I had packed my suitcase the night before, folding each garment carefully, choosing my best dresses, my mother's pearl necklace, comfortable shoes for walking on the beach. I felt like a child before Christmas. It had been so long since I'd had something to look forward to with such excitement. Robert would pick me up at 7 in the morning. We had agreed we'd all travel together in 2 cars to the hotel, which was 3 hours away. I put on my light blue dress, the one David always said made me look younger, and applied my makeup carefully. I wanted to look good for the family photos we'd surely take. At 7:30, Robert honked from the street. I took my suitcase, locked the house, and walked to the car with a smile I couldn't erase from my face. In the passenger seat was Monica, my daughter-in-law, checking her phone. In the back seat, my 2 younger grandchildren were playing with a tablet. "Good morning, family," I said, getting in the car, but only the children responded with a, "Hi, Grandma." Distracted, Monica looked up for barely a second and mumbled something resembling a greeting. Robert started the engine. "Ready for the perfect family vacation?" I asked, trying to start a cheerful conversation. "Yes, Mom," Robert replied, but his voice sounded tired. "Monica, did you text Anna to follow us? They already left. David drives like a turtle, so we'll probably arrive before them," Monica responded, without looking up from her phone. During the trip, I tried several times to converse. I asked about Robert's work, about their plans for the days at the hotel, about whether the kids knew how to swim. The answers were monosyllables, sighs, half-smiles that faded quickly. Monica didn't stop texting and every so often laughed at something she read on her screen. "Is it very funny?" I asked once, trying to include myself in whatever was entertaining her so much. "It's my friend's WhatsApp group," she responded without looking at me. "Things you wouldn't understand." I stayed quiet after that, looking out the window at the passing fields, the small houses, the trees beginning to change color. I thought about all the pies I'd sold to pay for this trip, about the nights I'd stayed awake sewing to earn a few extra dollars, about my wedding ring now in a jewelry store's safe. When we arrived at the hotel, my breath caught. It was more beautiful than I'd imagined from the internet photos. Tall palm trees swaying in the sea breeze, perfectly manicured, gardens with flowers of all colors, a white facade that gleamed under the midday sun. The entrance had water fountains creating a relaxing sound, and you could hear the ocean in the distance. "What a beautiful place!" I exclaimed, feeling my chest fill with joy. "I can't believe we're here." The children jumped out of the car excited, running toward the entrance. Robert and Monica began taking suitcases from the trunk. At that moment, the second car arrived with David, Anna, and the rest of the family. Madison, my 17-year-old granddaughter, was the only one who came over to hug me. "Grandma, this place is incredible," she said with bright, excited eyes. "Did you see the pool? It's huge. And they say they have night activities and themed restaurants." "I know, sweetheart. It's going to be a wonderful week," I responded, stroking her hair. At least, someone shared my enthusiasm. We all entered the lobby and I headed to the reception desk. It was a spacious, elegant area with marble floors that reflected the light from crystal chandeliers, white leather sofas, and tropical plants in enormous pots. The air smelled of fresh flowers and sea breeze. "Good morning," I said to the receptionist, a young woman with a kind smile. "I have a reservation under Eleanor Mitchell." She typed on her computer and smiled. "Of course, Mrs. Mitchell. We've been expecting you. 5 family suites, 7 nights, full board for 12 people. Everything is in order." While she prepared the keys and explained the hotel services, I heard my children behind me talking in low voices. "5 suites," I heard David whisper to Robert. "I thought you said it would be simpler." "Mom organized everything," Robert responded. "We'll see how to divide the expenses later." The receptionist handed me the keys on elegant keychains shaped like palm trees. The suites are on the 3rd floor, all with ocean views. Breakfast is served from 6 to 10 a.m. in the main restaurant. Lunch from noon to 3 p.m. and dinner from 6 to 10 p.m. You also have full access to the spa, pools, sports activities, and evening entertainment. "How wonderful!" I exclaimed, feeling my heart race with excitement. "Did you hear that, everyone? We have access to everything." But when I turned around to share my joy with the family, I froze. There was no one. Robert, David, Monica, Anna, and all the grandchildren had disappeared. Only Madison remained, looking at me with a strange expression on her face. "Where is everyone?" I asked, feeling my stomach sink. "They went toward the elevators," she responded, biting her lower lip. "Dad said they were going to settle into the rooms and we'd meet up later." Without waiting for me, without the keys. Madison didn't respond, but I saw in her eyes that there was something she wasn't telling me. We walked toward the elevator area, but there was no trace of the family. We went up to the 3rd floor and walked down the hallway looking for them. But it was as if they had evaporated. "Madison, what's going on here?" I asked, feeling my voice tremble. She sighed and took out her phone. "Grandma, there's something you need to know. They're in the family WhatsApp group." And she stopped as if it was hard to continue. "What WhatsApp group?" "The one Dad, Uncle Robert, Mom, and Aunt Monica made. It's called Drama-Free Vacation." Her voice became smaller. "Grandma, they didn't want you to come on the trip." I felt as if the marble floor was moving under my feet. "What do you mean they didn't want me to come?" "But Robert invited me. He asked me to organize everything." Madison showed me her phone with trembling hands. On the screen, I could see the WhatsApp group. The most recent messages said things that broke my heart into pieces. "We arrived. The old lady took care of everything as always. Perfect. Now, to enjoy without her watching us all the time." "Did you see how excited she got at reception? How embarrassing." "Well, at least she's useful for something. Let her stay in her room watching TV while we take advantage. The words blurred before my eyes. I felt them fill with tears. How my throat closed up. $4,200. My wedding ring. 8 months of work. All so they could enjoy. Without drama. Without me. Grandma. Madison's voice sounded very distant. Grandma, are you okay? No, I wasn't okay, but I wasn't finished either. I stood there in the hotel hallway with the 5 keys hanging from my trembling fingers, while Madison looked at me with eyes full of tears. The WhatsApp messages kept appearing on her phone, each one like a stab, straight to the heart. I hope she doesn't get annoying about the family meals. Relax, Monica. If she becomes unbearable, we'll tell her she's tired and should go rest. The important thing is the kids enjoy. Let her do her thing. I closed my eyes and took a deep breath. The hallway smelled of cleaning products and fresh flowers, but I could only taste the bitterness of humiliation in my mouth. For 40 years I had raised those children. I had sacrificed my dreams for theirs. I had sold my wedding ring to give them this perfect vacation. And this is how they repaid me. Madison, I said with a voice I didn't recognize myself. How long has this group existed? She looked at her phone, scrolling up to see older messages. Since Uncle Robert proposed the trip, Grandma. Look, it says here the group was created on December 12th by Robert Mitchell. My granddaughter showed me the screen. There it was, clear as water. Group created on December 12th by Robert Mitchell. The same day, my son had called me with his sweet voice to invite me on the family trip of my dreams. I kept reading the far older messages, each one worse than the last. I talked to Mom. She swallowed the whole story. She's definitely going to be able to organize it. You know how she is with technology. Doesn't matter. If she screws up, we'll fix it. The important thing is that she pays. Great. Free vacation without family drama. That's right. No activities altogether. Everyone on their own. The words became blurry from the tears I could no longer contain. But there was something more recent messages that made me understand the magnitude of their betrayal. Did you confirm the hotel allows changes to the reservation? Yes. David asked at reception. Since it's in Mom's name, she can make modifications. Perfect. Tomorrow we convince her to transfer the rooms to our names just in case. And the last day we tell her there was an error with the bill, that the hotel needs someone else to take charge of the payment. There it was. They had not only planned to ignore me during the trip, but they also intended to leave me with all the debt at the end. Grandma, Madison touched my arm gently. What are you going to do? That question echoed in my mind like an echo. What was I going to do? The Eleanor of before would have cried in silence, would have swallowed the humiliation, would have pretended she hadn't seen anything. She would have spent the 7 days locked in my room, ordering room service so as not to bother the family, in the restaurants, watching television while they enjoyed the pool, the spa, the evening activities I had paid for. But something had changed inside me. Maybe it was seeing my wedding ring disappears into the jeweler's hands. Or maybe it was those 8 months getting up before dawn to make pies and sell them at the market. Maybe it was realizing that my own children saw me as a walking wallet. Useful for paying and organizing, but annoying to include. I don't know yet, sweetheart. I responded to Madison, wiping away my tears with the back of my hand. But I'm not going to stand here crying. We walked to my suite. It was beautiful, with a king-size bed covered in impeccable white sheets, a balcony with a direct view of the ocean, a marble bathroom with a deep bathtub. Everything I had dreamed of for months while saving penny by penny. But now it felt empty, like a stage set for a play where I was only the financier, not the protagonist. I sat on the bed and Madison stood by the window, looking toward the beach where she could already see some family members. Robert and David were in the pool with their children. Monica and Anna were having cocktails under an umbrella, all laughing and enjoying as if nothing had happened. "You know what hurts the most," I said to Madison. "It's not the money. It's not even that they lied to me. It's that I thought we were finally going to be a real family, that we were going to make beautiful memories together." Madison turned around and I saw her eyes were red. "Grandma, I tried to tell them it was wrong. When Dad added me to the group, I told them it wasn't fair to you. But they said I didn't understand, that adults sometimes have to make difficult decisions." Difficult decisions? That's what I am to them. A difficult decision. At that moment, my phone rang. It was a message from Robert. "Mom, we've settled in. We're going to have lunch at the beach restaurant. If you want, you can order room service. See you at dinner." He didn't even invite me to lunch. He didn't even pretend they wanted my company. I got up from the bed and walked to the balcony. The ocean stretched infinite before me. The waves gently reached the shore and a warm breeze moved the room's white curtains. It was exactly as I had imagined during all those months of sacrifice. But my family wasn't there to enjoy it with me. "Madison," I said without turning around, "you knew I paid for all this." "How do you mean you paid for everything?" "The complete reservation, Fort-Howdy $200. I sold your grandfather's wedding ring to pay the deposit." I heard her gasp for breath. "Grandma, I didn't know." "Dad always said they were going to split the expenses among everyone. Lies. I paid every cent and they knew it. They knew I didn't have that money. They knew I had to make sacrifices, and still they used me." I turned around and saw Madison was crying. "Grandma, this is very wrong. I have to tell my parents that." "No," I interrupted her with a firmness that surprised even me. "You're not going to tell them anything. Not yet. But what are you going to do?" I looked toward the beach once more, where my family was enjoying the vacation I had given them without them knowing it. I thought about all the times they had, made me feel invisible, about all the occasions they had treated me like just another piece of furniture in the house. Useful, but annoying. "I'm going to think," I responded. "And while I think, I'm going to act as if I hadn't seen those messages, as if I didn't know anything. Why?" For the first time in days, I smiled. It wasn't a happy smile, but something colder, more calculated. Because, my love, the best revenge is served cold, and I have a whole week to plan mine. That afternoon I stayed in my room, sitting in the armchair by the balcony, watching my family enjoy on the beach. I had ordered room service as Robert had suggested, but the food remained untouched on the tray. I wasn't hungry. What I had was a mental clarity I hadn't felt in years. I took out my notebook, that little blue notebook, where I wrote down my daily expenses, and began to write. First, all the reservation details, dates, prices, confirmations, then screenshots of the WhatsApp messages Madison had shown me. Everything documented, everything recorded with the precision of someone who has learned that, in life, you can only trust papers. While I wrote, my phone rang constantly. Messages from the official family group, the one that did include my name, full of photos of them at the pool, at the restaurant, on the beach. "What a beautiful place, Mom. The kids are happy. Thanks for organizing everything." Each message was like a slap disguised as affection, but messages from the secret group also kept coming, the ones Madison forwarded to me from her room. Each one confirmed what I already knew. I was just a means to an end. The old lady is super quiet. Perfect! I hope she doesn't show up for dinner. The kids want to eat in peace. Tomorrow we ask her to give us the keys to the other rooms in case we need privacy. Privacy? As if my presence were a violation of their family intimacy. As if I weren't their mother, their mother-in-law, their grandmother. Around 6 p.m., Madison knocked on my door. She was dressed for dinner in a flowered dress and her hair up. She looked beautiful, but her eyes still showed traces of tears from the afternoon. "Grandma, are you going down to dinner?" "I don't know, sweetheart. What do you think?" She sat on the bed, playing nervously with her hands. "I think you should go down, but not because they deserve it, but because you paid for that dinner and you have the right to enjoy it." I smiled. My granddaughter was wiser than her family imagined. "You're right." I got ready carefully. I put on my black dress, the elegant one I had bought especially for this trip at a second-hand store. But it fit me perfectly. I did my makeup, put on my pearl earrings, sprayed on a little of my mother's perfume. If I was going to face my family, I would do it looking impeccable. The main restaurant was spectacular. Tables with white tablecloths, lit candles, enormous windows overlooking the ocean where the sun was setting, painting the sky orange and pink. The kind of place I had dreamed of knowing for years but never thought I could afford. When I arrived, my family was already seated at a large round table. Robert saw me first and waved for me to come over, but his smile seemed forced. "Mom, good that you came down. We'd already ordered the appetizers." I sat in the only empty chair, which was strategically placed with its back to the ocean view. Coincidence, of course. "How was your afternoon, Eleanor?" Anna, my younger daughter-in-law, asked with that sweet voice she used when there were people around. "Very quiet," I responded, pouring myself water from the pitcher. "I rested, read, a bit, enjoyed the view from my balcony." "How nice," Monica said without looking up from the menu. "We were at the pool all day. The kids didn't want to get out of the water." "I see they had a lot of fun," I commented, observing my grandchildren who were tanned and happy. At least they were genuinely enjoying the trip. During dinner, the conversation flowed as if nothing had happened. They talked about the spa, about the activities they had planned for the next day, about the perfect weather, about how delicious the food was. I nodded, smiled at the appropriate moments, made occasional comments. But inside I was taking mental notes of every detail. I noticed how David ordered the most expensive bottle of wine on the menu without consulting me, as if it were natural that I would pay. I noticed how Monica ordered 2 desserts to try and then only took a few bites of each. I noticed how Robert told the children to order whatever they wanted without limits, because Grandma invited us all. But what I noticed most was something that broke my heart. When one of my grandchildren, little 8-year-old Thomas, asked if tomorrow we could build sandcastles together. Monica immediately intervened. "Honey, Grandma is very tired to be on the beach all day. Better play with your cousins." "But I want to play with Grandma," Thomas insisted. "Older adults need more rest," Anna said, patting his head. "You'll have time to play with Grandma when we get back home." Older adults, as if I were a relic in a museum, too fragile to participate. In real life, I'm 65, not 90. I can build sandcastles perfectly well. Actually, I said with a smile I hoped looked natural. "I'd love to build sandcastles with you, Thomas. Tomorrow after breakfast, how about it?" I saw Monica and Anna exchange a quick glance. That silent communication that people who are used to manipulating situations have. "Well, we'll see how the weather is," Monica finally said. After dinner, as we walked back toward the elevators, I heard David whisper to Anna, "Tomorrow morning early, we're going to the spa. Take the kids to the children's pool so they don't bother Mom. Tomorrow morning early, the same time I had arranged to meet Thomas to build sandcastles. How convenient." In the elevator, Robert asked, "Mom, do you need help with anything? The hotel papers, the keys, something like that?" There it was. They were already starting with the plan to take control of the reservation from me. "No, son. Everything is perfect. I have everything under control. It's just that I thought maybe it would be easier if one of us handled the technical details, so you don't have to worry about anything. I appreciate the offer, but it's really not necessary." I saw the frustration in his eyes for a fraction of a second before he smiled again. When I got to my room, Madison was already waiting for me, sitting in the hallway. "How was dinner, Grandma?" "Educational," I responded, opening the door. "Very educational." We went in, and she sat in the armchair while I took off my shoes and left my purse on the table. "Grandma, I've been thinking all afternoon. What they're doing is very wrong, and I can't stay quiet. Madison, listen to me carefully. I know you have good intentions, but I need you to trust me. Can you do that?" She nodded, though she looked confused. "Good. Then I want you to keep sending me the messages from the secret group. But I also want you to act normally. Don't let them know I know something." "But why?" I sat across from her and took her hands. They were soft and young, without the wrinkles and scars mine had after 65 years of work and sacrifice. "Because, my love, when someone betrays you, the worst thing you can do is confront them immediately. The best thing is to let them keep believing. Their plan is working while you prepare yours. Do you have a plan? I'm developing one." Madison was quiet for a moment and then asked me, "Grandma, have you ever felt something like this before? Like this rage, this disappointment so big?" I looked toward the balcony where the full moon was reflected on the ocean waves. It was a beautiful, romantic view. The kind I would have enjoyed with my husband if he had lived to see it with me. "Only once," I responded. "When your grandfather died, and I realized I would have to face the rest of my life alone. But this time is different. Why? Because when your grandfather died, the pain was inevitable. It was part of life. But this was a choice. My children chose to hurt me, use me, betray me, and choices have consequences." That night, after Madison went to her room, I stayed awake very late. Not watching television or reading, but thinking, planning. For the first time in years, I felt powerful because I had something they didn't know I had. Information. And as my husband used to say, information is power. Tomorrow I would begin to use it. I woke up before dawn, as I had done for the last 8 months when I got up to make pies to sell. But this time it wasn't out of obligation, but from a strange feeling of energy I hadn't felt in years. I made myself coffee with the room's coffee maker and sat on the balcony to watch the sun rise over the ocean while reviewing my notebook. At 7:30, my phone vibrated with a message from Madison. It was a screenshot of the secret WhatsApp group sent just minutes before. "Plan for today. Everyone to the spa at 9. Kids to the children's pool with the hotel nanny. Lunch at the beach restaurant without the old lady. If she asks, we tell her a spontaneous plan came up. Perfect. And don't forget today, we ask for the keys to the other rooms. Any credible excuse? We tell her we need access in case of emergency, or that the kids want to throw a surprise party in one of the suites." They couldn't even invent an original lie. But what bothered me most was the nanny part. They had hired someone to take care of my grandchildren instead of asking me, their own grandmother, to be with them, as if I were a dangerous stranger instead of the woman who had raised them when they were babies and their parents had to work. At 8, I went down to the restaurant for breakfast. It was early, so there were few people. The place was beautiful in the morning, with the golden sunlight coming through the windows and the soft sound of waves in the background. I sat at a table by the window and ordered coffee, fresh fruit, and scrambled eggs. While I had breakfast, I observed the other families in the restaurant, an older couple laughing while sharing croissants, their wrinkled hands intertwined on the table. A young family where the parents were feeding a baby, while the grandmother held the older child on her lap, telling him stories that made him laugh. Real families, families that included each other, families where grandparents were an integral part, not a nuisance to be tolerated. At 9 o'clock sharp, I saw my family go down toward the spa area. Robert, David, Monica, and Anna walked together, talking animatedly while the children ran ahead excited. None of them looked toward the restaurant where I was sitting. They didn't even wonder if I had eaten breakfast or if I was okay. I finished my coffee slowly, savoring each sip. Then I went up to my room and took out all the reservation documents I had brought with me. Hotel confirmation, payment receipts, copy of my credit card, everything organized in a folder I had prepared meticulously. At 10:30, I went down to reception. "Good morning, Mrs. Mitchell." The same receptionist from the day before greeted me. "How are you enjoying your stay?" "Very well, thank you. I have a question. This reservation is completely in my name and paid with my credit card, correct?" She checked on her computer. "That's right, ma'am. Everything is registered under your name. Eleanor Mitchell. 5 suites for 7 nights, full board, all services, included, paid in full. And if I wanted to make modifications to the reservation, would I have the authority to do so?" "Of course. As the reservation holder and the one who made the payment, you have full control. Is there something you'd like to change?" "Not for now. I just wanted to confirm. Another question. Is it possible to add a security note to the HAR account so that any changes require my personal authorization in person?" The receptionist looked at me with curiosity but nodded professionally. "Of course. Would you like me to add any specific instructions?" "Yes. I want it recorded that I, Eleanor Mitchell, am the only person authorized to make changes to this reservation. No one else in my family can modify dates, services, or transfer the rooms to another name without my physical presence and my identification. Understood? I'll add it to the system immediately." While she typed, I observed the lobby. It was early, but there was already movement. Guests heading to the beach, families planning their day, hotel staff attending with professional smiles. Everything seemed normal and perfect, but I knew that in a few hours, when my family returned from the spa, they would try to execute their plan to take control from me. "Done, Mrs. Mitchell. Is there anything else I can help you with?" "One more thing. What is the hotel's cancellation policy?" "It depends on the type of reservation. In your case, having paid the full rate in advance, you can cancel up to 24 hours before final checkout without penalty. If you cancel with less time, 1 night's stay would be retained." "I understand. And if I decided to shorten the stay, would you refund the unused nights?" "Yes, ma'am. You would be refunded the cost of the remaining nights, minus the penalty, if applicable." "Perfect! Thank you very much for the information." I went up to my room with a strange feeling. For the first time in months, I felt in control of something. I wasn't the helpless old woman my children thought I was. I was the reservation holder, the one who had all the decision-making power, the one who had paid every cent. At 11:30, Madison knocked on my door. She came in agitated with her hair wet from the pool chlorine. "Grandma, I have to tell you something urgent." "What happened?" "I was in the children's pool with my cousins when I heard Dad talking on the phone. He was talking to someone from the bank." My blood ran cold. The bank. Yes. He was asking about how to dispute a charge on the credit card. He said something about a hotel, about unauthorized expenses. Madison sat on the bed looking worried. "Grandma, I think they're going to say you made expenses without the family's permission." The room started spinning. They not only wanted to ruin my vacation and take control of the reservation from me, but they also planned to leave me with all the debt and then dispute the charges so they wouldn't pay anything. "Are you sure what you heard?" "Completely. After the call, Dad went to where Uncle Robert and the aunts were. I saw them talking in low voices, but I managed to hear when Dad said, 'It's already in process. By tomorrow it should be resolved.' Tomorrow. They had everything calculated. They probably thought they'd enjoy all the hotel services until the last day, and then activate the charge dispute, leaving me not only humiliated but also bankrupt. I got up and walked toward the balcony. The ocean was still there, beautiful and indifferent to human dramas. The waves came and went with the same constancy as always. But something had changed in me since yesterday. It was no longer just disappointment or sadness I felt. It was something colder, more determined. "Madison," I said without turning around, "do you trust me?" "Of course, Grandma." "Then I need you to do something for me. And it's very important that you don't tell anyone what I'm going to ask you. Whatever it is." I turned around and looked her directly in the eyes. "I want you tonight, when everyone is asleep, to come to my room. We're going to have a very important conversation about the future of this family." "What are you going to do?" "I'm going to teach them a lesson they'll never forget." The phone rang at that moment. It was a message from the official family group. "Mom, we're having lunch on the beach. We saved you a spot in case you want to come." Liars. I knew perfectly well they had planned to have lunch without me. But this time, instead of feeling hurt, I smiled. "Tell your dad thank you very much, but I have other plans." And I wasn't lying. I did have other plans. Plans that were taking shape in my mind with a clarity that surprised me. That afternoon, while my family enjoyed on the beach with the money I had paid, I dedicated myself to making some very important calls. First stop, my bank. Second stop, the hotel reception. Third stop, my lawyer. Because if my children thought they were going to play with me, they were very wrong. The game was just beginning, and this time, I had all the cards. That afternoon, while my family had fun on the beach believing they had found the perfect formula. For a free vacation, I was in my room executing my own plan. I had learned during 65 years that patience is the most powerful weapon a woman can have, especially when they underestimate her. My first call was to the bank. After navigating through the maze of automated options and waiting 20 minutes, I finally managed to speak with a human representative. "National Bank, this is Carmen speaking. How may I help you?" "Good morning, Carmen. I'm Eleanor Mitchell. I need to report a possible fraud attempt on my credit card." "Of course, Mrs. Mitchell. Can you provide me with your card number and date of birth to verify your identity?" After confirming my data, I explained the situation with the care of someone who has thought through every word. "Carmen, I have reason to believe that someone in my family is going to attempt to dispute legitimate charges I made on my card, specifically a hotel reservation for $40 out of $200 that I authorized and paid. Personally, I understand your concern, Mrs. Mitchell. Do you have any evidence of this possible fraudulent dispute? Yes, I have all the reservation documents, payment confirmations, and witnesses who can corroborate that I authorized all expenses. Additionally, my granddaughter heard my son talking on the phone today about disputing these charges. Carmen took note of everything and explained the procedure. I'm going to put a protection note on your account, Mrs. Mitchell. If someone tries to dispute those charges, an automatic investigation will be activated that will require substantial evidence of actual fraud. And meanwhile, the charges will remain valid until proven otherwise. I'm also going to email you a form for you to document everything related to this possible family fraud attempt. After hanging up with the bank, I felt like I had won the first battle of a war that was just beginning, but I needed more ammunition. My second call was to the hotel reception. Good afternoon. Could I speak with the manager, please? 5 minutes later, a man with a kind voice introduced himself. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm Michael Henderson, hotel manager. The receptionist tells me you want to speak with me. Yes, Mr. Henderson. I have a delicate family situation, and I need to make sure certain information is officially recorded. I explained that I had paid the complete reservation as a surprise for my family, but I had discovered they were planning to fraudulently dispute the charges. I understand perfectly, Mrs. Mitchell. Unfortunately, this isn't the first time we've seen these family situations. What do you need us to do? First, confirm in writing that I am the sole holder of the reservation and that I paid everything voluntarily. Second, if anyone from my family tries to make changes without my presence, I want you to contact me immediately. Of course. I'll send an official letter confirming all the details of your reservation and payment. I'll also instruct all reception staff about the situation. One more thing, Mr. Henderson. Would it be possible to schedule a meeting tomorrow morning? I think I'm going to need to make some changes to the reservation. Of course. Would 9 a.m. work for you? Perfect. My third call was the most important. I looked in my notebook for the number of Mr. Johnson, the lawyer who had helped my husband with the will and who had handled some minor family matters over the years. Johnson Law Office, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Is Mr. Johnson available? This is Eleanor Mitchell. Mrs. Eleanor, how nice to hear from you. Mr. Johnson is in consultation, but I can interrupt him if it's urgent. It's urgent. 3 minutes later, Mr. Johnson's familiar voice filled the phone. Eleanor, how are you? Is everything okay? No, Johnson, nothing is okay. I need urgent legal advice. I told him the whole story. The trip, the WhatsApp messages, the plan to dispute the charges, everything. Mr. Johnson listened without interrupting, making occasional sounds of disapproval. Eleanor, this is very serious. What your children are planning constitutes financial fraud and elder abuse. Elder abuse? Yes. Using deception to obtain economic benefits from a senior citizen is a federal crime. Additionally, disputing legitimate charges is bank fraud. What can I do? Several things. First, it's good that you already contacted the bank. Second, I'm going to email you a document I want you to sign and have notarized. It's a sworn statement that you voluntarily paid all trip expenses. Is there a notary at the hotel? Most large hotels have notary services for guests. Ask the manager. What else can I do? Eleanor, I have to ask you something important. Do you want to take legal action against your children? The question hit me like a punch to the stomach. Legal action against Robert and David, the children I had raised, who I had cared for when they were sick, for whom I had sacrificed so many things. I don't know, Johnson. I just want them to stop. I understand, but I want you to know you have options. You can sue them for fraud. You can change your will. You can take measures to protect your assets. Think about it. After hanging up with Mr. Johnson, I sat in silence for several minutes. The sun was beginning to set, painting my room in golden colors. I could hear the happy voices of my family, returning from the beach, laughing, talking, about plans for dinner. At 6:30, someone knocked on my door. It was Robert. "Hi, Mom. How was your afternoon?" "Very productive, son." "Productive? What did you do?" "Important calls, paperwork, adult stuff." I saw how his smile became a bit forced. "Mom, speaking of paperwork, David and I were thinking maybe it would be easier if we handled some of the hotel details. So you don't have to worry." There was the first official move of their plan. What kind of details? Well, the keys to the other rooms, for example, in case there's an emergency and we need access. What kind of emergency would require you to have access to rooms that aren't yours? Robert seemed thrown off by the direct question. "I don't No, Mom. We just thought it would be more practical." "Robert," I said with the calmest voice I could manage, "I'm 65 years old, not 95. I can handle the room keys perfectly well." "Of course, Mom. I didn't mean you couldn't. I just thought—" "What did you think exactly?" I saw how he got nervous, how he searched for the right words to manipulate the situation without sounding too obvious. "Nothing, Mom. Forget it. Are you coming to dinner?" "Of course. It's my money paying for that dinner, right?" The question took him by surprise. "Your money?" "Whose else would it be, Robert?" "No, of course. You're right. We're dividing everything at the end of the trip, like we talked about." "When did we talk about that, exactly?" Robert was silent for a moment, clearly confused by my change in attitude. The submissive and compliant Eleanor he expected to find wasn't there. "Well, Mom, I thought it was obvious that it was obvious what? That we were going to share the expenses among everyone." "Robert, did I ever ask you if you wanted to share the expenses?" "No, but—" "Did we ever agree this would be a shared expense?" "Mom, I don't understand why you're asking these questions." I got up and walked toward the door. "Let's go to dinner, son. I'm hungry." As we walked toward the elevator, I could feel his confusion. His plan required me to be predictable, manageable, to act as I had always acted, but I was no longer the same woman who had arrived at the hotel 2 days ago. During dinner, I observed my family with new eyes. I saw how each of them enjoyed the food I had paid for, the expensive drinks they ordered without thinking, the multiple desserts they ordered on a whim. I saw how they talked about the next day's plans, as if I weren't there, as if my presence were optional. But I also saw something else. I saw Madison watching me with worried eyes, understanding that something had changed in me. I saw my younger grandchildren genuinely enjoying the trip, knowing nothing about the adults' betrayals, and I realized something important. Not everyone at that table had betrayed me. That night, after everyone went to their rooms, Madison came to see me as we had agreed. "Grandma, what's happening? Dad looked very strange during dinner." "He looked strange because his plan isn't going as expected." I told her about my calls during the day, about the measures I had taken to protect myself, about the meeting I had scheduled with the hotel manager in the morning. "Are you going to cancel the trip?" she asked with wide eyes. "No, my love. I'm going to do something much better." "What?" I smiled, and for the first time in days it was a genuine smile, not forced. "I'm going to give them exactly what they deserve." At 5 in the morning I was already awake, not because I had set an alarm, but because my body had developed the habit of waking up early during those months of selling pies. But this time, instead of feeling the familiar weight of tiredness and obligation, I felt strangely energized. Today was the day everything would change. I showered calmly, dressed in my best outfit, the navy blue suit I had bought for my husband's funeral, but had never had the opportunity to wear on an important occasion. And I went down to the restaurant. It was 6:30, and the place was almost empty. Perfect. I needed tranquility to review my notes one more time. While I had my coffee and reviewed the documents Mr. Johnson had sent me by email during the early morning, I saw Michael Henderson, the hotel manager, come in. He was a man of about 40, elegant, with that warm professionalism that characterizes people who really understand service. "Mrs. Mitchell, good morning. How did you sleep?" "Very well, thank you. Could we move up our meeting? I have some things I'd like to discuss before my family wakes up." "Of course. Would you prefer we go to my office?" "Yes, that would be perfect." His office was elegant but welcoming, with a view of the hotel garden. He had diplomas on the walls, photos of special events, and a coffee maker he immediately offered me. "Mrs. Mitchell, last night I was reviewing your case with my legal team. We want to make sure we completely understand the situation." "Your legal team?" "Yes, cases like yours, though unfortunately not rare, require us to follow certain protocols to protect both the guest and the hotel." Michael opened a folder on his desk. "Let me confirm. You paid the complete reservation of $4,200 with your own credit card, without coercion, as a surprise for your family, correct?" "Completely correct." "And you have evidence that some members of your family plan to fraudulently dispute these charges?" "Yes. My granddaughter heard my son coordinating with the bank." "I understand. He had 2 documents there that I'd like you to review." The first document was an official statement from the hotel, confirming all the details of my reservation and payment. The second was more interesting, an addendum to the contract that gave me exclusive authority over any aspect of the stay. "What does this mean exactly?" I asked, pointing to the second document. "It means that you, as the person who paid, and the reservation holder, have absolute control. You can decide who stays and who goes. You can modify services. You can even cancel specific rooms if you wish." I felt my pulse quicken. "I can cancel specific rooms?" "Absolutely. There are 5 suites reserved under your name. You can keep all 5. You can cancel 1, 2, 3, or even 4 of them if you wish. And the people in those rooms would have to find alternative lodging? Or leave the hotel?" The idea began to take shape in my mind with crystalline clarity. "Michael, what's the checkout time?" "Normally at noon, but we can be flexible depending on the circumstances." "And if someone needs to leave before that time?" "It's also possible. Are you considering making changes to the reservation?" I was silent for a moment, looking out the window toward the gardens where the gardeners were already starting to work. It was early, but the day promised to be beautiful, sunny, perfect for the beach. The kind of day my family had planned to fully enjoy at my expense. "Michael, I want to make some changes, but I need them to be executed exactly as I'm going to explain." "Of course, I'm all ears." "I want to cancel 4 of the 5 suites." Michael raised his eyebrows slightly but maintained his professional expression. "Which ones specifically?" I took out my notebook where I had written down the room numbers. "Suites 301, 302, 304, and 305. I want to keep only 303, which is mine." "Understood. And when do you want these cancellations to take effect?" "Today, but not immediately. I want you to first block access to those rooms at 10 a.m. the key cards, will stop working. And then at 11, I want hotel staff to go to those suites to inform the guests they must vacate the rooms before noon due to changes in the reservation. Michael was taking notes while I spoke, without judging, completely professional. Are there any specific instructions I should give the staff? Yes. They should explain that the reservation holder, which is me, decided to modify the stay, that it's not the hotel's fault, but a personal decision of the person who paid for the reservation? And if they ask where they can find you to talk to you, they can tell them I'm available in Suite 303, but only if they come to talk civilly. If there are shouts, threats, or disrespect toward hotel staff, they have instructions to contact security. Michael finished writing and looked at me with a mix of admiration and curiosity. Mrs. Mitchell, may I ask what led you to make this decision? Michael, do you have family? Yes, wife and 2 young children. Do you love them? Of course. Would you do anything for them? Without hesitation. And if they betrayed you, if you discovered they use you, are ashamed of you, plan to defraud you? Michael was quiet for a moment. I think I understand. For 40 years I raised my children. I fed them, clothed them, cared for them when they were sick. I worked to give them an education. I sacrificed my dreams for theirs. And now, when I thought we could finally enjoy time together as a family, I discover they see me as a useful nuisance for paying bills. I'm very sorry, Mrs. Mitchell. Don't apologize, Michael. This isn't sadness. This is liberation. I signed all the necessary documents, including the sworn statement Mr. Johnson had prepared. Michael called a hotel notary who arrived in 10 minutes to make everything official. One last thing, I said to Michael when we finished. Could you prepare a taxi for 12:30? For how many people? Just for 2. My granddaughter, Madison, and me. Are you going to the airport? No, we're going to another hotel, one where we can really enjoy a vacation. Michael smiled for the first time in the entire meeting. It will be a pleasure to help you with that too. When I returned to my room, it was 8:30. My family was surely already awake, planning another perfect day without including me. But this time, things would be different. I sat on the balcony with a fresh cup of coffee I had ordered from room service and waited. At 9, I would receive the first message from Madison with the conversations from the secret group. At 10, the key cards would stop working. At 11, the hotel staff would knock on their doors, and for the first time in my life, I would have all the control. My phone vibrated. It was a message from Robert. Mom, we're going to have breakfast. Are you coming? I responded. Thank you. I have other plans for today. What plans? You'll see, son. You'll see. I looked at my watch. It was 9:55. In 5 minutes, the countdown would begin. The moment my family would discover they had gravely underestimated the woman who had given them life, and honestly, I couldn't wait to see their faces. At 9 o'clock exactly, my phone vibrated with the first message from Madison. It was a capture of the secret group sent just minutes before. Perfect plan for today. Beach all morning, spa in the afternoon. The old lady will surely stay in her room like yesterday. Great. After lunch, we talked to reception to give us control of the other rooms. Did you already confirm with the bank, David? Yes. This afternoon, the dispute process should be ready. By tomorrow, we won't have to worry about the expenses. Each message was one more confirmation that I had made the right decision. There was no doubt, no guilt, no room for regrets. They had chosen this path. At 9:30, another message from Madison. Grandma, they're all at the pool. Dad just said that after lunch he's going to reception to fix the rooms thing. I also heard Aunt Monica say that today is the last day they have to pretend everything is fine. The last day they had to pretend, as if being with me were an unbearable performance that was finally coming to an end. I poured myself another cup of coffee and sat comfortably in the armchair by the balcony. From there I could see the pool, where my family was enjoying. Robert and David were in the water with some of the grandchildren. Monica and Anna were having cocktails under an umbrella, all laughing, relaxed, happy, making the most of the vacation I had paid for while planning to betray me. At 10:05, my phone rang. It was Michael. "Mrs. Mitchell, the system is ready. In 2 minutes, the key cards for suites 301, 302, 304, and 305 will be deactivated." "Perfect, Michael. Your staff is prepared for what's coming?" "Completely. We have the security team on standby, and we've already briefed the housekeeping staff on how to handle the situation with diplomacy but firmness." "Excellent. I'll see you in an hour." I looked at my watch. 9:58, 9:59, 10 SRARS. At this moment, my family's keycards had just become useless pieces of plastic. They couldn't enter their rooms, they couldn't access their belongings, they couldn't change clothes or take a shower after the pool. I waited. It didn't take long. At 10:07, I saw Anna get up from her chair at the pool and walk toward the elevators. She was probably going to get something from her room. At 10:15, my phone vibrated with an urgent message from Madison. "Grandma, Mom is yelling at reception. She says her keycard doesn't work." 3 minutes later, another message. "Now they're all there. Dad is very upset. The receptionist is explaining something to them. But I can't hear well from here." At 10:20, Robert called me. His voice sounded tense, controlled, but I could detect the panic underneath. "Mom, there's a problem with the rooms. The cards don't work. Could you come down to reception to help us solve it?" "What kind of problem?" "We don't know. The receptionist says there's a change in the reservation, but that's impossible because no one has changed anything." "How strange." I responded with the most innocent voice I could manage. "Are you sure no one has changed anything?" "Of course not, Mom. Could you come? We need to solve this quickly because the kids want to go back to the rooms." "I'm a bit busy now, son. But don't worry. I'm sure it will be resolved soon." "Busy with what?" "Important things." I hung up before he could respond. At 10:45, Madison sent me another message. "Grandma, the hotel manager is talking with Dad and Uncle Robert. They look very worried. Aunt Monica is arguing with the receptionist." At 10:58, my phone rang again. This time, it was David. "Mom, we need you to come to reception now. There's a very serious misunderstanding and only you can solve it." "What kind of misunderstanding?" "The hotel says you canceled our rooms. That's ridiculous, right? Tell them it's a mistake." "Why would it be ridiculous, David?" "What do you mean, why?" "Because there's no reason for you to cancel our rooms." "There isn't." There was a long silence on the other end of the line. "Mom, what's going on?" "I'm sure Michael explained it very well to you." "Michael? You know the manager?" "Of course. We had a very productive meeting this morning." Another silence. When David spoke again, his voice had changed completely. "Mom, you canceled our rooms." "Yes. Why?" "Because I can." And I hung up. At 11 o'clock exactly. From my balcony, I saw hotel staff walking toward the pool area. There were 3 people: Michael, a woman who seemed to be from the guest department, and a plainclothes security man. I saw how they approached my family, how Michael spoke with Robert while pointing toward the hotel. I saw the expressions of shock, confusion, and then anger on my children's and daughters-in-law's faces. I saw how the grandchildren, who didn't understand what was happening, approached their parents looking for explanations. At 11:05, someone knocked on my door forcefully. It wasn't the polite knock of a social visit. They were strong, urgent, desperate knocks. I opened the door and there they were, all four. Robert, David, Monica, and Anna. Their faces were a collage of emotions: fury, confusion, panic, disbelief. Behind them, in the hallway, I could see some of my grandchildren waiting with beach bags in their hands. "What the hell is going on?" Monica shouted before I could say a word. "Good morning to you too," I responded calmly, stepping aside so they could enter. "Don't come at me with ironies, Eleanor," Monica continued. "The hotel says you canceled our rooms. That's ridiculous." "Why is it ridiculous?" "Because we're your family." "Oh, really? Since when?" Robert stepped forward, trying to use his most conciliatory voice. "Mom, clearly there's a misunderstanding. Let's go to reception and clear all this up." "There's no misunderstanding, Robert. I canceled your rooms because you're no longer welcome. On my trip." "Your trip?" Anna looked genuinely confused. "I thought it was a family trip." "I thought so too until I discovered you don't consider me family." David frowned. "What are you talking about?" I took out my phone and showed them the screenshots of the secret WhatsApp group that Madison had sent me. I saw their faces fall, apart as they read their own messages. "This," Robert tried to find words. "This isn't what it seems." "No? Then explain to me what free vacation without family drama means, Robert." The silence in the room was deafening. The four of them looked at each other, searching for an explanation, an excuse, a way out of the hole they themselves had dug. "Mom," David finally spoke, "I understand you're upset, but you can't leave us without rooms. We have small children." "The same children you were going to keep away from me by hiring a nanny?" "That was... And what about the bank, David? Have you already started the charge dispute?" David's face turned completely pale. "How do you know?" "I know everything. I know about the WhatsApp group. I know about your plans to take control of the reservation from me. I know about the fraudulent dispute you were planning to make to the bank. I know everything." Monica collapsed onto the couch, covering her face with her hands. Anna looked like she was going to vomit. Robert and David stood in the middle of the room like children who had been caught stealing candy. "So," I said with a voice that sounded strangely calm, even to me, "here are your options. You can take your things, which the hotel staff has already packed very kindly. You can call a taxi, and you can go find another hotel where you can pay for your own vacation." "Or what?" Robert asked with a trembling voice. "Oh, nothing. That's your only option?" "You can't do this!" Monica shouted, getting up from the couch. "We're your family. You can't abandon us." I looked directly into the eyes of this woman, who for years had tolerated my advice with fake smiles, who had talked behind my back, who had turned my son against me. "Monica," I said with a calm that surprised even me, "who abandoned whom first?" And at that moment I saw in her eyes that she knew exactly what I was talking about. The war had ended before they knew it had begun. The silence that followed my question was devastating. I could hear the air conditioning running, the distant voices of other guests in the hallway, the soft sound of waves reaching the beach. But in my room the silence was so dense it seemed to have weight of its own. Robert was the first to try, to recover. "Mom, this is crazy. You can't be serious. Do you think I'm joking?" But the kids. What will the grandchildren think?" For the first time since this confrontation had begun, I felt a pang in my chest. My grandchildren, the only innocents in all this betrayal. The grandchildren will think their parents made very poor decisions and now have to face the consequences. You're destroying this family!" Anna shouted with tears running down her cheeks. "No, Anna. This family destroyed itself when you decided I was an obstacle instead of a valuable member." David approached me with his hands extended in a pleading gesture. "Mom, please. I know we made mistakes, but we can fix it. We can talk." "Now you want to talk? After months planning this deception?" "It wasn't months," Robert murmured. "No. The WhatsApp group was created the same day you invited me on the trip, Robert. The same day." I saw how he collapsed internally. There was no way to deny the evidence anymore. "Fine," said Monica, getting up with an expression of fury she no longer tried to hide. "You want to be the martyr? You want to do your dramatic scene? Perfect. But don't expect us to come running when you feel lonely again." Her words were designed to hurt me, to make me reconsider, to activate that part of me that had always been afraid of being alone. "Monica," I said, walking toward the door and opening it. "I'd rather be alone than be accompanied by people who despise me." "We don't despise you," David exclaimed. "No? Then explain to me what getting rid of the burden and the last day we have to pretend everything is fine mean." David opened his mouth to respond, but no sound came out. At that moment, Madison appeared at the door. She had been waiting in the hallway with the other grandchildren, but she looked clearly distressed. "What's happening?" she asked in a small voice. "The kids don't understand why we have to leave." My heart broke a little more. This girl, my granddaughter who had shown me the messages, who had been my ally in this discovery. Now she would have to leave too. "Madison," I said softly. "Come here." She approached and I took her hands. "My love, your parents and I have very serious differences. They're going to have to leave the hotel." "But why, Grandma?" I looked at David, her father, wondering if he would finally have the courage to tell his own daughter the truth. "Why?" David said with a broken voice. "Dad made very big mistakes." Madison looked at her father. Then she looked at me, and in her eyes I saw an understanding that went beyond her 17 years. "Does it have to do with the WhatsApp group?" Everyone froze. Anna turned to her daughter with a panicked expression. "What do you know about that?" "I know everything, Mom. I know what you've been saying about Grandma. I know you never wanted her to come on the trip. I know you only used her to pay for everything." The silence that followed was different. It was no longer tense with denial. It was heavy with the shame of recognition. "Madison," Anna tried to explain. "Things aren't as simple as—" "No." Madison let go of my hands and turned to her parents. "So it's not true that you created a group without Grandma to make fun of her? It's not true that you planned to dispute the bank charges so you wouldn't pay anything? It's not true that you hired a nanny so we wouldn't have to spend time with her?" Each question was like a slap. I saw how my children and daughters-in-law physically shrank under the weight of a teenager's words, who had seen through their lies. "You hurt the only person who has always been there for us," Madison continued with tears in her eyes, but with a firm voice. "Grandma sold her wedding ring to pay for this trip. Did you know that? She sold Grandpa's ring." Robert collapsed into a chair as if his legs couldn't hold him anymore. "You sold your ring?" "I needed the money for the deposit." "Mom." David looked sick. "We didn't know." "Because you never asked. You assumed I had infinite money for your whims." Monica, who had been quiet during Madison's speech, finally spoke. "Fine. We'll leave. But this won't stay like this." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise. You can't treat your family like this and expect there to be no consequences." Monica, I said, walking toward her until we were face to face. I didn't treat my family badly. My family treated me badly. What's happening now are the consequences of your actions, not mine. Robert got up from the chair. Mom, please, can we solve this? Can we? Can you what, Robert? Erase the messages you wrote. Cancel the fraudulent dispute you initiated? Return the respect you took from me? We can apologize. Are you apologizing because I caught you? Or do you really regret it? Robert couldn't answer. Exactly. At that moment, Michael gently knocked on the open door. Excuse the interruption, Mrs. Mitchell. The taxi is ready for the family. He looked toward my children. Your belongings are in the lobby. The hotel can help you find alternative accommodation if you need it. Thank you, Michael. Taxi? Anna asked. You're leaving too? Yes. Madison and I are going to another hotel where we can really enjoy the vacation I deserve. Madison is going with you? David looked genuinely surprised. I looked at my granddaughter, who nodded firmly. Madison is the only person in this family who treated me with respect and honesty. She's the only one who deserves to share this vacation with me. You can't take our daughter, Anna shouted. I'm not taking her. She's choosing to come with me. Madison, David spoke directly to his daughter. You can't do this. We're your family. Dad. Madison looked at him with an expression that mixed love and disappointment. Grandma is also our family, and you betrayed her. I can't be part of that. It's just for a few days, I added. Then she can decide if she wants to return with you or not. This is kidnapping, Monica murmured. No, I said firmly. This is justice. Robert approached me one last time. Mom, if we leave like this, things will never be the same between us. Robert? I put my hand on his shoulder, and for a moment I saw the boy he had been before, becoming the man who had chosen to betray me. Things will never be the same. You made sure of that. I took my suitcase, which I had packed that morning, after my meeting with Michael. Madison already had hers ready. Where are you going? David asked with a defeated voice. To a place where I can be a grandmother without having to apologize for existing. We walked toward the door. In the hallway, the other grandchildren were waiting, confused and sad, not fully understanding what was happening, but knowing that something important had broken. I knelt in front of them. I love you very much, I told them. And this isn't your fault. Someday when you're older, you'll understand why Grandma had to do this. Thomas, the 8-year-old, hugged me tightly. We're not going to build sand castles anymore. Someday we'll build the most beautiful castles in the world, I promised him. When your parents remember how to treat the people who love them. Madison and I walked toward the elevator. When the doors closed, I could see my family in the hallway, my defeated children, my furious daughters-in-law, my confused grandchildren. In the lobby, Michael was waiting for us with our taxi. Mrs. Mitchell, he said, as the driver loaded our suitcases. It's been an honor to meet you. What you did today required a lot of courage. It wasn't courage, Michael. It was survival. When the taxi pulled away from the hotel, I looked through the rear window. I could see my family at the entrance with their suitcases, probably calling other hotels, looking for where to stay. Do you regret it, Grandma? Madison asked me. I thought about the question as we watched the landscape pass by. I thought about 40 years of motherhood, about sacrifices that were never recognized, about love I had given without expecting anything in return, but that, in the end, had expected at least basic respect. No, I responded finally. I regret taking so long to value myself. The taxi was heading toward a small boutique hotel on the coast, where I had made a reservation that morning. A place where a grandmother and her granddaughter could build sandcastles, enjoy quiet dinners, and remember what it meant to be real family. For the first time in years, I felt free. And for the first time in my life, I had put my own needs first. It was terrifying and liberating at the same time, but mostly, it felt right.